Patrol agents. I'm not blaming the Border Patrol agents. The victim are the Border Patrol agents. The suspect put himself in that situation. The victims are the Border Patrol agents there.
Man, I am telling you, we have got truckloads of premium grade psychological BS going on, up to and including not just the Communist News Network actually asking some decent questions of Bavino here, but you got MSLSD, MSDNC, you got the spokesman here, Nicole Wallace, wearing a We the People shirt, talking about how important the Second Amendment is, just like with Dana Bash right here. Let's just go ahead and start it. I'm going to play this at 1.5 times speed because, you know, it's really difficult to get through a 20-minute video. We're going to cut it in half right here. Well, not nearly in half, but let's go over this because some points have to be made as tyranny is being set in place and the surveillance and control grid for Palantir is being set up by this administration, just like it was in the last administration. And I'm telling you, the police state doesn't care if you're Republican or Democrat because they're going to hand the reins of power over to the technocrat elites. Check this out.
Here with me now is U.S. Border Patrol Commander-at-Large Greg Bovino. Thank you for being here. Sir, you are still in Minneapolis, and I want to get to a lot of questions that we have that are unanswered. First and foremost is that Alex Preddy approached Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. I want to go back to one of the videos, and I know you can see it there, and I want to ask you about what you're seeing, because multiple angles of this incident show him holding up a cell phone and recording it, not a gun. Did he at any point pull out his weapon?
Dana, good morning, and thanks for having me. The weapon, we do know that the suspect did bring a weapon, a loaded 9mm high-capacity handgun, to a riot. We do know that. As far as what happened in that intervening moment.
A riot? I wasn't aware that there was a riot going on. Were you? I wasn't even aware of a protest. They were just there because ICE was conducting what they called a targeted operation to get a bad guy off the street. And there's nothing wrong with standing on a street or even in the street, as long as you're not obstructing traffic, to record your government servants from a public place.
The video that you just showed, that's going to come to light through the investigation. That's being investigated, and those facts and those questions will be answered soon enough.
We, the murderers, will investigate ourselves, and we'll get back to you and let you know what we found.
Okay, but the Homeland Security Secretary is not waiting for that investigation to take place before saying that Alex Preddy was, quote, brandishing a weapon. Let's go to video 7. Because
good point, Dana. Good point. A broken clock is right at least twice a day, and the Counterfeit News Network is right to ask this question.
Of course, you know this far better than I. The definition of brandishing is waving or flourishing something, especially a weapon, as a threat or an anger and excitement. That's just a still photo of what Alex Preddy appears to be holding. There is nothing that we have seen that showed him, as Secretary Noem said, brandishing a weapon. Have you, sir, seen something different to support what the Secretary said?
Dan, I think what we need to take a look at here is the situation in its totality. What happened leading up to this situation? The suspect decided to inject himself into a law enforcement action. What's not being said here is the fact that Border Patrol agents and law enforcement were conducting a targeted law enforcement effort against a violent, illegal alien that was nearby, and that suspect injected himself into that law enforcement situation with a weapon.
Wait, I thought you said it was a riot. So now you're saying it was a targeted operation against a known criminal?
And what happened between when that situation first came about and the shooting, that's going to be investigated, and we're going to get to the facts of that.
Well, you said yesterday that this looks like a situation where the individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. What evidence do you have that he wanted to massacre law enforcement? Because all the videos that we have, and I do want to, we just have a still shot up now, but I do, Control Room, want to play one of the other videos. Let's play video number 1 again. It doesn't look anything like he's trying to massacre law enforcement. In fact, he was filming, and then it looked like he was trying to help another individual there who was pushed down by law enforcement, and then they went after him.
This is real journalism. They're accidentally involved in real journalism, but it's all in hypocrisy because there's no way Dana Bash or CNN or MSNBC, MSDNC would ever treat anybody in the Biden administration or the Obama administration like this. So really, it's activism. It's not journalism. It's appealing to the cognitive bias of an audience that's already skewed to the left. That's what makes this whole thing unfortunate.
In fact, I believe that the fantastic training that our law enforcement partners have, the fact that they're highly trained, prevented any specific shootings of law enforcement. So good job for our law enforcement in taking him down before he was able to do that. And again, Dana, let's look at why he was there in the first place. Was he simply walking by and just happened to walk into a law enforcement situation and try to direct traffic and stand in the middle of the road and then assault, delay, and obstruct law enforcement? Or was he there for a reason? Did he fall victim to that violent and heated rhetoric by a Mayor Fry, a Governor Waltz? Look, Dana, they're trying to portray Border Patrol.
Jacob Frey and Tim Walz, by the way, Democrat, leftist, statist, communist, socialist, just throw any bad name at the book. It will stick because it does apply to them. Got no love for the Democrats, got no love for the Republicans, got no love for the Gestapo of the Thin Blue Line ICE agents or for CNN.
And ICE agents as Gestapo, Nazi, and many other words, did this individual fall victim, as many others have, to that type of heated rhetoric?
I want to stay focused on this incident right now because what you were saying is that he went there to try to stop this law enforcement operation. All of the video that we have seen shows him documenting it with his cell phone, which is a lawful thing to do. And the only time he seemed to interact with law enforcement is when they went after him when he was trying to help an individual who law enforcement pushed down. So where do you have...
That is what the video shows. And just because CNN is saying it doesn't make it untrue. Believe what your eyes are seeing. Let's say, just aside from the fact that this could be AI generated or whatever, if this is completely above board, if what you're seeing is actually what happened, your eyes are telling you that ICE advanced, or the Department of Homeland Security, the Border Patrol agents advanced on Preddy. Preddy was standing there recording. The ICE agent shoved with both arms the lady. Preddy got in between them almost as if to kind of defend the lady. And then he got bear spray in the face. And then he got dogpiled by 4 or 5 agents. That's what happened. They took his gun, shot him in the back, and then continued to shoot him as they saw him laying on the ground with his hands empty. No weapons involved. No shot fired. He never grabbed at his weapon. He was executed in cold blood in broad daylight on an icy street in Minnesota.
Have the evidence to show that he was trying to impede that law enforcement operation.
Sure, Dana, first he was there in the scene. He was in the scene actively impeding and assaulting law enforcement to the point.
He was not actively impeding. If you see what they're trying to do, CNN has a part in this too. Along with the Trump administration, they're trying to project onto the rest of Americans who might also exercise their First Amendment freedom of press rights to record public servants in a public place. They're trying to make that inserting yourself into an official law enforcement operation. It's not true. It's a lie.
That's not illegal. He wasn't Dana, impeding it. He was filming it, which is a legal thing to do in the United States of America.
Dana, let's don't freeze frame adjudicate this now. He was there for a reason. And that reason was to impede law enforcement to the point.
What evidence do you have of that?
And here's a good point, Dana, is the fact that de-escalation techniques were utilized during this action. Those de-escalation techniques, whether it was physically trying to remove them from that law enforcement scene, that active law enforcement scene in which law enforcement were going after a violent illegal alien, or the use of pepper spray, which is another de-escalation technique. Those techniques did not work.
So they can always say that then. They can always justify their actions. Hey, we were going after a violent illegal alien so we could help and save other Americans over there in Minnesota, and you got in the way. You're the bad guy.
Officers always try to use the minimum amount of force necessary to either effect an arrest.
That's using the minimum amount of force. Bear spray in the face where you can't see and you can't breathe, knocking him down with 4 guys who can't even put his hands behind his back and properly arrest him and detain him. No de-escalation at all, and then they shoot him in the back.
This case was more than likely 18 U.S.C. 111, assault on a federal officer, or
where did he assault the federal officer in any of the video that you have seen? Because it looked to us from every angle, sir, that he was approached by them when he was helping another individual who was pushed down. What evidence do you have that he was assaulting any law enforcement?
Dana, we don't need a suspect's help in an active law enforcement scene.
When you say suspect, what is he
suspected
suspected of?
That's an active law enforcement scene. He knew that was an active law enforcement scene, especially when the officers approached him, and it's very evident he did not need to be where he was.
So
and he
when
decided
somebody
on his own to stay there.
So when somebody is pushed down and a person's instinct is to help that person, when somebody's pushed down by law enforcement, you're saying that you just stand back and let law enforcement do what they're doing?
So if law enforcement, let me just say what Dana just said and just in different words. So when law enforcement, whether state, local, or federal, is actively involved in abusing his power and committing an actual crime and leaving a real victim, are you saying that Americans can't just use their own conscience, do the right thing, and step in the way and prevent that abuse from continuing? Is that what you're saying? Would you actually say that if the Crips Crips and the Bloods were beating up some old couple in a car at a gas station or at a bus stop, are you saying that Americans shouldn't unite and come against that violence? Is that what you're saying, Bovino?
Is that really human nature?
You know, Dana, every situation is different.
That person, when somebody's pushed down by law enforcement, you're saying that you just stand back and let law enforcement do what they're doing? I mean, is that really human nature?
You know, Dana, every situation is different. What our officers are faced with here in Minneapolis are chaotic, very difficult and violent situations in which individuals, and this suspect is not the only one to bring a loaded weapon to a riot. The situations are chaotic and ever changing.
Bringing a loaded weapon to a riot. First of all, don't you have the Second Amendment right to bring a loaded weapon wherever you want to in America? Don't you have the unalienable right? Should that right ever be infringed? No, it shouldn't. I would think if there was ever a time where you would bring a loaded weapon, it would be to a riot so that you could protect yourself and anybody else in your zone of influence.
Directions for law enforcement, don't inject yourself knowingly beforehand into a law enforcement situation.
What if law enforcement injects themselves into your life? So you can inject yourself into our life, but we can't inject ourselves into your life. Plus, where's the evidence that Preddy injected himself anywhere? He was kind of standing way back, and all the action came to him.
In fact, it feels as though, in some ways, you're blaming the victim here.
The victims are the Border Patrol agents. I'm not blaming the Border Patrol agents.
The victims are my thugs with guns who routinely abuse their power, lie under oath, lie on reports, and commit grave atrocities against Americans. These are my victims right here. You know, all the Nazi SS soldiers, they were the ones who were the actual real victims. The victims are the Border Patrol agents.
The victims are the Border Patrol agents. I'm not blaming the Border Patrol agents. The victim are the Border Patrol agents. The suspect put himself in that situation. The victims are the Border Patrol agents there.
I want to go back to the gun, sir, because I think this is really, really critical.
I want to go back to the gun that I want taken from every single American, Dana Bash should say if she was honest, because I'm on the side of the Democrats. I don't think anybody should have guns. The only people who should have guns are the government. We need to remove all the guns for the safety of the people. If you love guns, then you hate children. If you don't want to get rid of your guns, you despise children. Remember, that's what CNN always says. And now she's concerned about somebody having a gun? Why is that, Dana?
Can see an agent, and I just want to go to, let's see here, video 5. You can see a screenshot of an agent in a green jacket approach Preddy, and then he appeared to take a gun away. When the agent...
She can't even get that. It's the gray jacket. She's talking about the guy with the gray jacket who looks to have Preddy's gun in his hand. They say it's a Sig Sauer P320.
Took the gun away, which seems as though it was Preddy's gun. That happened before Preddy was shot. Why was an unarmed man shot multiple times by law enforcement, by your Border Patrol agents?
Yeah, Dana, you don't know he was unarmed. I don't know he was unarmed. That's freeze frame adjudication of a crime scene via a photo. That's why we have investigators. That's why we have an investigation that is going to answer those questions. How many shots were fired? Who fired shots? Where was the guns? Where were the guns located? All those questions are going to be answered.
I think you can see the screen.
In the investigation. We're not going to adjudicate that here on TV in one freeze frame there.
Okay, it's not a freeze frame. We're showing a video of one of your agents taking the gun away.
And you can see it right here. It's as plain as day. He's got the gun in a holster behind him, right at his tailbone. This Border Patrol agent, or whoever he is, I'm going to assume he's a part of the member of the Department of Homeland Security, but he grabs that firearm with his right hand as this guy grabs his firearm to shoot Preddy in the back. That's what happened.
And that happened before Preddy was shot.
We don't know that agent was taking any gun away. That could have been the agents, because we don't know that. The facts are going to come to light.
So you're disputing the video, that's what happened.
With an investigation. That's why.
In other words, don't believe your eyes or your ears. Believe what we say.
Investigate.
Well, with respect, you say that's why we investigate, but you're also drawing other conclusions that sort of fly in the face of waiting for an investigation. I just want to also go back to what I was asking about with regard to what Secretary Noem said, that he was brandishing a gun. At any point, do you have any evidence that, yes, he had a gun on his person? Was he brandishing it? Was he a threat because he had a gun in his hand that put law enforcement in danger?
We heard the law enforcement officer say gun, gun, gun. So at some point, they knew there was...
So wait, you have evidence that the law enforcement officer said gun, gun, gun. So that means you've watched at least one of those videos. What else did you see in that video? Did you see Preddy brandishing a gun? I mean, it's a simple yes or no.
Gun. So again, that is going to be part of that investigation as to what was happening on the ground there between those victims, the Border Patrol agent victims, and the suspect.
Man, he totally stepped in it right there. He actually admitted that he's watched the video and he heard them say gun, 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 which means he also saw that Preddy didn't brandish and didn't even touch his gun.
Both the police chief in Minneapolis, O'Hara, and Governor Walz say Preddy was legally licensed to carry a concealed weapon. So are you saying it's not okay for him to exercise his Second Amendment right, not to mention his First Amendment right to be there in the first place, but his Second Amendment right to carry a gun? And
did you ever think you'd see the day where CNN was going to bat for Second Amendment rights?
you can be shot by federal law enforcement?
No, I didn't say that, Dana. I never said that. What I'm saying is we respect that Second Amendment right, but those rights don't count when you riot and assault, delay, obstruct, and impede law enforcement officers, and most especially...
Where was Preddy rioting? Where did he assault a police officer? Where did he insert himself into a government operation? Where? You have to know that he just admitted to watching at least one of the camera angles. So what he's basically saying is, in this situation, you've got no right to keep and bear arms. That's what he's saying without saying it.
Do that beforehand.
How do you know that?
When you mean to do that beforehand, when you show up to an active crime scene, don't leave the crime scene and you're armed, then, you've got the decision-making process for that individual. It doesn't seem to be very good. Now, back to the Second Amendment. What you're saying about the Second Amendment is peacefully protesting with firearms. Absolutely, I've done that myself and fully support that, but not when you perpetrate violence, obstruct, delay, or obfuscate Border Patrol in the performance of their duties in an
There's
active
no
crime
evidence
scene.
that he was perpetrating violence. And there's no evidence, unless you have it, and we'd love to see it if there is, that he was intending to massacre law enforcement, other than the fact that he was there and he had a gun lawfully.
That is true. And it's not true because CNN said it. It's true because that's what the video shows.
He meant to be there beforehand. Again, Dana, he came there beforehand
How do you
for
know
a
that?
reason.
How do you know that?
Because he was there.
But all
Because
he was doing
there.
was filming
It's
and
very
documenting
evident.
it, which is legal. He was carrying a gun, which in Minneapolis
I didn't
is
say
legal.
it wasn't. And I didn't say it wasn't legal.
So then what did he do that was illegal?
Assault federal law enforcement when he does that. That's an
Where?
active law enforcement crime
Where do you
scene
see in the video that he was
decided to enter into.
Where do you see in the video that he was assaulting law enforcement? Because from everything we have seen, law enforcement was assaulting him when he was there trying to help another individual.
Dana, law enforcement doesn't assault anyone. Follow directions of law enforcement.
Law enforcement doesn't assault anyone? Tell Daniel Shaver that. Tell Philando Castile that. James Boyd, Johnny Hurley. Oh, that's right. You can't tell them that because they're all dead because they got ultimately assaulted to the point of expiration by law enforcement. Law enforcement doesn't assault anyone. They do it as a matter of course. They do it every single day. As a matter of fact, they assault your rights every single day under the color of traffic law. And there's a USC, there's a code, 18 USC 242, deprivation of rights under color of law. If any representative of any government in any state, in any locality, in any jurisdiction deprives any American of any right under the color of any rule, ordinance, regulation, code, or law, that person is subject to fine and imprisonment or both up to and including death. That's what 18 USC 242 says. And 18 USC 241, conspiracy against rights. It sure looks like Preddy got his rights conspired against and his life conspired against as they deprived him of his rights and ultimately his life. This is off the charts tyranny.
Follow directions of law enforcement in an active crime scene. It's very evident he didn't want to do that. Very evident that the other individuals didn't want to do that. And it's too bad the consequences had to be paid because he injected himself into that crime scene. I can't say that.
That's just a lie. That's just a lie. He wasn't even anywhere near. The video bears out. Preddy, whatever you think about Preddy, whatever your political ideology or your cognitive bias, try to shove that down and try to think about this logically. At no point in any video did Preddy, that I've seen, now if you see something else in a different context, show me, but show me where Preddy injected himself in a government operation. Show me where he wasn't rather just standing there and the government operation came to him. It's almost like if you're standing on a street corner and you see the crime scene tape put up and you don't go beyond the crime scene tape, you stand in the same way and the cop takes the crime scene tape and extends it to you and includes you in that envelope and this says, aha, now I'm going to get you for obstructing because you're in our crime scene. I'm only in your crime scene because you chose to place me in your crime scene. That's what ICE did here. They chose to place Preddy in the middle of their operation. They chose to inject themselves into his life. If you think I'm wrong, leave me a comment.
No, he made the decision to go there. We didn't make the decision to talk to him. We didn't even know that individual was in existence until he came.
That's a lie. That's a lie. You saw the shove right there? They injected themselves into his life.
Into that crime
I want to go back to video number one.
There we
because
go.
You keep saying that he injected himself into the crime scene. He was a guy on a street filming an operation. He was far away. He wasn't on the crime scene. And what I want you to see again is that law enforcement appears by the video we have to be approaching him and the person who is next to him, not the other way around. And so what I want to know is what evidence
Look how far away Preddy was from this operation.
do you have that he went after law enforcement?
Sure. The fact that he was standing in the middle of the road, there was interaction between him, the bystanders, and law enforcement, and again, follow directions of law enforcement. He doesn't need to be in the middle of a crime scene. Dan, I don't think you would want to be in the middle of a
So the whole road is a crime scene?
scene, or you would want civilians in the middle of a crime scene injecting themselves into something that is none of their business at all.
Can you also just
Actually, every government operation is every American's business, and every American has the right to operate as a free press and record the actions of their public servants.
answer the question about the gun? Because, again, do you have any evidence that he was brandishing his weapon? Did he ever have his hand on the weapon?
Yeah, again, the officers on the ground, in that melee, we hear gun, gun, gun. So that gun, at some point, became visible to officers.
But could it have been because they had him on the ground and maybe his shirt came up and they saw that it was on him? That doesn't mean that he was.
And that is why we have an investigation. Dana.
Fine,
That is what we are investigating. You're not going to know that now, and I'm not.
That's what we're investigating, even though my boss, Kristi Noem, basically he said he was out there to cause a mass casualty event and kill law enforcement agents.
I think an investigation is great, but the Homeland Security Secretary said he was brandishing a weapon. Do you have evidence that we haven't seen that he was brandishing a weapon?
He brought a semi-automatic weapon to a riot, assaulted federal officers, and at some point they saw that weapon.
That's not the question. Was he brandishing? Them seeing the weapon because they tackled him and his coat flew up is not him brandishing a weapon. Answer the question. He won't.
I do believe the secretary is 100% spot on in what she said. Why would you bring a weapon and assault a federal officer if you did not have intent to harm or delay or obstruct that federal officer with a weapon?
You keep saying that he assaulted a federal officer, but again, we have not seen evidence that that happened. It looked like he was on the defense, and again, he had a gun legally. It sort of feels like we're in the upside down, where we have law enforcement and conservatives who are very pro Second Amendment saying the problem was that he had a gun. Legally.
No, the problem is, as I said several times now, is he injected himself. He put himself where he did not need to be. He put himself in and put law enforcement.
It's all lies. It's all, he's just trying to sell you a massive tanker truck full of lies.
Officers in jeopardy through his actions. These were his actions, not law enforcement officers' action. We had to react to an individual that came there for a specific reason. And again, what that reason is...
That's weird, because that's what Preddy looks like he was doing. It looks like he was reacting to a very tense situation that your officers caused.
Find more out about that in the coming days. I'll be interested to see what his reason for being there, while Border Patrol agents were arresting a violent, criminal, illegal alien doing their lawful, ethical, and moral duties in Minneapolis. That's the question.
Well, but the question is also, why is an American citizen now dead for the second time who was there to document, in this case, and clearly to be there as a bystander, which is his First Amendment right.
He wasn't there to clearly document anything. Don't socially engineer the topic, Dana. He was not there to document.
Appeared
he came
to be.
there for
That's
a reason.
fair. Appeared
and
to
he
be.
obfuscated and delayed officers there on the scene. That's pretty evident to me.
The ocean of deception and putrid lies on this video are off the charts. The Counterfeit News Network is not on your side. Bovino and the Department of Homeland Security isn't on your side. And the police state doesn't care if you're Republican or Democrat, because they want to control us all through the Palantir technocratic state. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below. If you like these commentary videos, maybe you'll like some of my others. If you want to support the channel, you can do it for free. Just like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon. If you want to support further, the links are in the description. I really appreciate your help. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters. We couldn't even get this out here without you, and you're the ones who make it possible. Remember, the government is the great fiction by which everyone seeks to live at the expense of everyone else. I will see you in the next.